Well, I think it's going a little bit further than just each person looking after what's in their immediate interests, what immediately is going to be to their personal advantage or gratify themselves, but actually looking to see the wider scope of the industry. Because I've been lucky enough to work for companies which directly employ the seafarers and the captains, and to see the full breadth of their experience and knowledge, and to be part of a company that really tries to incorporate some of the values of their education and their experience into the way we work, means that I think that we can get a great deal of benefit from looking beyond what's in our own immediate interest. Yes, well, I was greatly honoured to receive it. I mean, it's an industry in which there have been that there are a great number of, and even in the list of people you had, a great number of good industry professionals with a great track record. So to open the paper and find myself named as number one was enormous satisfaction to me, and a bit of a shock. But I think that I know that in what's been going on at Euronav over the time that I've worked there, I have a huge amount of support from my colleagues, from my shareholders, and I feel that it's very much a question of having had the opportunity to express a lot of the things that they feel and they want to have said, and I'm allowed to be the spokesperson and the prime actor in it, and that's a great privilege. Well, I mean, our industry is really it's a very strange one because we provide a very high quality of service, but the reality of that service is that it's treated as a commodity at the point of sale. The days have gone when the oil majors controlled most of the sailing fleet, or where they took contracts on a long-term basis, and when they were very focused on the service element. Today, they treat it as a commodity. They buy it from the marketplace. When the market looks very strong and things are good, then of course people rush to the shipyard and build new ships, and invariably people all think they're acting in a counter-cyclical manner. They all do it at the same time, and in fact they find that they're part of a herd rather than part of a counter-cycle. So what we've learned from shipping is that timing is critical, that valuation is at its most important at the bottom of values and at the top of values, and trying to get some feeling for that so that you can maximize the value to your shareholder, so that you can replace assets in a timely fashion at a good price is critical to really making sure the company has a sustainable business model. And so it has been very important to try to keep that image of counter-cyclicality, to not try to follow a trend that's already started, but to have the courage to oppose a trend that's currently in flow. So I think that a lot of people have tended to jump on the end of the bandwagon of ordering ships, when perhaps they should have been thinking more about selling at that point. And they've tended to think it was the end of the world and that nothing would ever come to any good, just at the point when they needed to invest. So it's quite difficult to have the patience and to act a bit like a farmer and to take your time and wait for the right season. Yes, I think that it's an industry which has fostered some misconceptions. One, that there's some magic to decision making. I don't think there is. I think it's not because people were successful. It wasn't because there was something very inherent about them that made them successful. I think that in fact it's a bit like yeah, maybe it's a gruesome analogy, but if you imagined 100 people ran across a minefield and one of them made it, it wouldn't be because he had some special gift at spotting mines. It would simply be a natural outcome of the statistical likelihood of him crossing the field. And I think that people have tended to take it on themselves as a success as a matter of their own innate personality. And there's been a lot of secrecy in the industry. And I think if there's transparency and a good explanation, what we'll find is that it isn't anything very magical or special. It's about making rational decisions at the right time, and that the more that people can see it, the more confidence they will get in the industry, and the more funds will be made available to invest in the industry. And then the industry will be able to retool itself and invest for the future and for the changes that are needed and required or imposed on us by the rest of society. Yes, I think that there is. I always like to think that there's a kind of gravity in the shipping markets. And when I say gravity, I don't mean seriousness. I mean that essentially it's always inclined to go down, and it's inclined to go down because very few people have a vested interest in maintaining high freight cost. And I think that's very short-sighted because, what's really happening is that ship owners tend to overinvest at the wrong time, with the result that there's an oversupply and rates fall. And that benefits a very small group of people who are actually shipping the commodities. The reality of it is that society needs to make sure that enough is paid for shipping to guarantee high quality of professionals on board ships, that the ships are well maintained, and that the ships are renewed in a timely manner to keep pace with technology and with the requirements of the shipper. For all those things to happen, we have to have a more rational market, and we mustn't have this atmosphere in which the market is sold down. And one of the problems that we've faced in it has often been the fact that the people who act as the hub of all information and knowledge in the market tend to be the broking community. And the broking community themselves, regardless of how they feel about the market, they are only paid by bringing the cheapest ship to load any cargo. So they're always trying to persuade the owner with whom they have contacts that he should offer less to carry the cargo. And so this creates a natural downward pressure on the market, almost regardless of the dynamic between supply and demand. Well, I think it's not made much ground at all. I think that, in all honesty, it was more trying to be logical about it. At the moment, there are a number of aspects around the way that we're paid for the freight of moving a cargo. And there are a couple of things that we don't particularly like. One is, of course, we pay the fuel cost for the movement. And the oil majors or the NOCs who hire our ships only have to pay for the move after we've discharged the cargo, which means that we pay for the cost of the fuel, and that we're paid late for the cost of the fuel only after the voyage is completed. That's unlike other areas of shipping where this doesn't occur. And that's unfortunate for us, and it puts a big working capital burden on us. But because the freight's paid like that, the brokers are paid on a commission basis from the gross freight, which means that they actually receive a commission on the expenses of the voyage, which seems strange. This has nothing to do with the benefit that we reap, and it has nothing to do with the profitability of the voyage. My preference would be that actually we would pay brokers a higher percentage than they currently receive, but only pay it off the earnings that the owner receives, what we would call in the industry the time charter equivalent or the net freight, and that would encourage the brokers to want to support the market in a way that would ensure it was profitable or at least cash flow positive for owners. Yeah, I think ITOP has been one of those really well-kept secrets of the shipping industry. A lot of people found the name rather difficult to pronounce or to understand, but its purpose is to really be that place where you can go to get the skills and the support on site in a crisis to deal with something that's new to you but actually is familiar to them. And one of the things they must make sure is that in their brief, they, without necessarily being overly self-promoting, that they keep within a professional and consistent approach. Nevertheless, they must make sure that people know about them and know that the resource is there. So it's really been part of our part as the directors to say to them, do take the effort to get out of the office, get a higher profile. They've done an excellent series of short films. They're doing an app at the moment that children can download to learn a little bit about marine pollution, and really to make sure that the message is spread that they're there, that they are not looking after ship owners' interests, but they're looking after the interests of society in having the right skills and experience to help in a moment of crisis. Yes, obviously, we're in the crude oil tanker industry. It's an industry where if you stop most people in the street and ask them about the industry, then the images that come to their mind would be, in the UK, probably the Torrey Canyon, the Imoko Cadiz, the Sea Empress. If it was in France, it would probably be the Erika and the Prestige, and in the States, you probably wouldn't get them much beyond Macondo, even though it wasn't a ship. We tend to be very associated with the things that go wrong in the industry, And it's disheartening when the industry actually has a fantastic record and has some wonderful people in it. And I think that ITOP's very important to me because it's part of what we're trying to ensure the industry can do for the rest of society, that we look after stakeholders beyond shareholders, actually to the people whose environment we sail in and around. And it's a repository of skills and knowledge about how to tackle pollution when it occurs. The industry actually has a fantastic record on the reduction of pollution over the last 20 years, and ITOP has a fantastic history of acting as an independent third party, assessing and assisting people with the skills that are necessary to clean up in the event that an accident occurs. It's something that nobody's going to explain very easily, but we all know that feeling, that human contact, the communication that you get when you meet somebody face to face, it's completely different. And you manage somehow, I think, when you meet somebody face to face to quickly communicate so much more than can be done using electronic means of communication. I think even I'm a great believer in using Skype and Videocon as well, but it's nevertheless important to meet people and spend time together.